tell us a little bit more about a difficult or interesting time in your career, including any advice you'd like to pass on to your younger self?
I'll probably talk about one particular phase, but the first thing I'd say is be true to yourself. I've found in a couple of situations I've been in places or locations or situations where there's stress for whatever reason. Stress because in South African case, didn't know the language, didn't know the mining methods, different country, and always found that if you're true to yourself, that's the foundation that's going to make a difference. If you're not being true to yourself, if you're trying to be someone else, if you're trying to, be what someone else wants you to be, you'll always be less authentic than you are. And if you're not authentic, people will see right through it. So my single piece of advice would be, be true to yourself, no matter what the situation. In terms of an interesting period in my career, a challenge, I have had the great opportunity to work in a couple of very challenged businesses and had to make significant change in those. And one particular business really struggling. As a team, we had to halve the workforce in this business from 4,500 down to 2,500, which is tough, and every one of those people who leave a business in that situation, they're affected, their family's affected, their children are affected, they've got a mortgage, they've just, decided to send their kids to private school, they've just bought a car, whatever it is, they're affected. And for me, there has to be a why. If you're going to do difficult things, or if you have to make tough choices that impact people, you've got to have a why, and people have got to understand your why. And for me in that situation, it was an integrated business, fully integrated. It was very important to the state where it was operating. And even though it was tough, and even though people lost their jobs during that process, the business itself was so important to the state. 2,500 employees, with family members, there's 10,000 people, with the flow on jobs and communities that live off those operations, perhaps another 10,000. So you've got a business that maintains 25,000 people's livelihoods. And for me, that was the why. That it was more important to keep that going and to keep that business and that sort of that ecosystem going. That was the most important thing, and it was dreadfully difficult, to have 2,000 people lose their jobs as part of that. But the bigger picture was more important to a bigger group of people. And when you have a why, first of all, you have to share that with people with compassion and with authenticity, and it's amazing. People understand, and if it's for the greater good, for want of a sort of a simple term. You can make hard decisions. We had a great workforce in that business, and probably the best workforce I've ever been with. We had a great team, used to hardship. Pitch in together. All the things that leadership and management are talking about these days around, collaboration and care and all those things. We had that 10 years ago. It was inherent in that business, and one thing I firmly believe is that's natural in all of us. You don't need management speak or leadership to tell you that you've got to care about each other, or that you've got to have togetherness, or that you've got to watch out for each other. That's humanity. That's who we are. The role of leadership is to recognise that and to help that come to fruition. And when that comes to fruition, from a business point of view, anything's possible.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've certainly found in my time in the mining and resources sector that there is, and seeing exposure to other sectors that I get these days, is that it's a very strong culture in the sector, and people are, we do go through significant hard times in the commodities sector, so it's quite up and down.
Yeah.
So people do go through those hard times, and your message about having a reason for doing things and being genuine and authentic, it's really interesting to see that through some of the really best businesses around the country, and you do see that. If the young professionals can take that away in their leadership, that's a fantastic message, Paul. Thanks.